countdown that has almost ended to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United States. He left for the United States this morning, and ahead of his departure, the Prime Minister shared details about his visit. He will first participate in the International Yoga Day celebrations at United Nations headquarters, where delegates from 195 countries will be doing yoga along with him. He will then fly down to Washington, D.C., where it will be down to business. He will be hosted by President Joe Biden and the First Lady at the White House, followed by participation in an event for skill development and capacity building. Prime Minister Modi will also be meeting with CEOs of American multinational companies, both in New York and in Washington, D.C. He will be then addressing the American Parliament and the diaspora events, all of which are going to happen in a jam-packed schedule that the Prime Minister has over the next 72 hours.
So it's a big week clearly for Indian diplomacy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is undertaking his first ever state visit to the United States in his 9 years as Prime Minister. Remember, he's been here 6 times in the last 9 years ever since he assumed Prime Ministership. But this is the first time that he will be the recipient of all the pomp and ceremony and the grandeur of a state visit. There's going to be the state banquet that's going to be hosted at the White House. That's going to happen on Thursday. But before that, first he comes here to New York City, to the Big Apple. He will be leading the Yoga Day celebrations at the UN headquarters, which is on the Upper East Side, the iconic UN headquarters building at 6 a.m. New York time. Prime Minister Modi, along with diplomats, including the UNGA President, the United Nations Security Council Secretary General, all of them will be part of the Yoga Day celebrations. That's going to happen on Wednesday, 6 a.m. local time here in New York City. Also, a whole bunch of substantive deals, particularly in defense technology, are going to be signed. The big one, of course, being the GE jet engine deal for the 414 GE jet engines, which are going to be manufactured in India. There's going to be a great degree of technology transfer as well as part of that deal. We're given to understand that by value, close to 80% of value of the jet engine will be transferred, and the technical know-how will be transferred to the Indian counterparts. Also, the other big deal in the defense realm, which is expected, happens to be the Predator armed drone deal. Now remember, the Predator drones are something that the US has very successfully deployed in the heartlands of Afghanistan against the Taliban, also operating on the terrorists who are operating from Pakistan. So it's been a very successful defense component of the US military relationship. They've been using this since the late 2000s, and for the very first time, they are extending this technology to India. We are given to understand that all 3 services, the Army, Navy and the Air Force, had expressed interest in buying some numbers of the Predator armed drones. We don't know the exact number or the value of this deal. That will likely be revealed through the course of this week. But I think it's going to be substantive that for the first time, an unmanned aerial vehicle deal of this nature is being signed between the United States and India. And of course, the commercial partnership will also be extended. There are a whole bunch of CEOs that the Prime Minister will be meeting, both here in New York as well as, of course, in Washington, D.C. He will also be taking part in a US IPF event as well. So it's going to be a packed itinerary for the Prime Minister over the next 3 days, both here in New York as well as in Washington, D.C.
I'm thrilled to welcome Prime Minister Modi for his historic visit to the United States. The U.S.-India relationship is extremely valuable and extremely important. Both of our countries share the common foundation of being vibrant democracies, firmly committed to holding democratic values and principles. Our economic ties are built on substantial bilateral trade that contributes to economic growth and job opportunities for all of our people. India is also a key partner in the Indo-Pacific, helping to ensure stability and security throughout the region. I look forward to hearing Prime Minister Modi address Congress and working to continually strengthen the relationship between our 2 countries.
And I want to take this opportunity to say how delighted I am that we are receiving an historic visit to the United States by the Indian Prime Minister, the Honorable Mr. Narendra Modi. What a momentous special occasion this is, and we welcome him to the United States. We eagerly look forward to him being hosted by the United States President Joe Biden at the White House on June 22nd, 2023.
India is not alone. The Security Council, what we have today, has been inherited from decades and decades ago, reflecting a different world with different big powers, different balance of power. Of course, India among those who believe they can contribute to the well-being of the world. The case of the reform has been going on in the negotiating process for 13 years, way too long. The first discussion that started on the potential necessity of reforming the Security Council started more than 40 years ago. So it's really high time.
Ahead of Prime Minister Modi's visit, China has shot out what seems to be an unnerving message. It's clearly jittered by the bonhomie that we are seeing between the United States and India. The Chinese media, the state media, has now released a statement wherein they have declared that India's trade with the United States can neither replace its trade with China, nor can India replace China and the global supply chains. The more India exports to the United States, the more it needs to import from China, was the kind of message that Beijing wanted to send. China has further said that if the US and India want to further develop their economic and trade cooperation, they should solve their problems instead of bringing in China. Now, India has the right to choose its favorable economic and trade policies to accord its own interests, but China going on to say that India must abandon geopolitical calculation, such as considering joining the US's reckless and selfish game to contain China. This has come at a time when we just saw the US Secretary of State made an official visit to China to try and soothe the tempers that have been flying between the two countries. Remember, the entire surveillance saga had ensured that there were wrinkles, many deep divides that were in the relationships between the United States and China. That is something Antony Blinken tried to smoothen out, but looks like Beijing continues to provoke as far as India and US relations go. Siddhant, my colleague, joining us, getting us more details as far as the response from China is concerned. Siddhant, the response from China is on expected lines. We were expecting the kind of jitters that we are now seeing from the Chinese state media.
Well, absolutely, and you know, this particular reaction, or perhaps China taking position on this particular state visit of Prime Minister Modi to US is uncalled for, and the kind of comparison that Chinese media is drawing right now clearly establishes one thing, that China could see that there is India which can challenge China perhaps in years to come, or perhaps is challenging China right now with regards to dominance in Indo-Pacific, also with regards to investments and also in various other sectors. And this is the reason that Chinese media is saying that no matter whatever America does, or how much India and US will try to strengthen their ties, China is irreplaceable. China cannot be replaced when it comes to supply chain, and you know, not just America, but in fact India and other countries rely heavily on China. So this is a position which Chinese state media has taken. Now they have also given some examples saying that that Apple, which has one of the largest markets in India, you know, relies on Chinese supply chain. They also they have also said, and Chinese media has reported, that India has increased its export to America, but simultaneously India has also increased its imports from China. So, you know, China mainly wants to give this message out that no matter how much India and America will come closer to each other, China cannot be replaced. China wants to replace America as a global superpower. B, China also wants to retain the chair of Asian superpower. And if any country which can challenge China, or perhaps can take on China militarily. Now, you know, in the world, everyone talks about China. Every country talks about China. But none of these countries have ever taken on China militarily. It is only India which has taken on China militarily. So China understands the growing significance, the growing strategic importance of India, and also the kind of defense agreements that India is going to sign with US is something which China is worried about. Now, India has also asked US to open a repair mechanism in India, which will not only serve for the maintenance of the defense equipments of India, but whole of the region. India has also asked America to remove some of the sanctions in terms of defense exports to India, so that not just India but whole of the region gets benefited by procuring American technology.
Yes.
And as far as defense technology is concerned, India is in talks to acquire Predator drones. India is also in talks to acquire armored vehicles. India is perhaps going to sign defense industrial under defense industrial cooperation. India is also going to get jet engine deals signed. So very soon India is going to make its own jet engine with the help of the American technology in India. And all these things, all these developments are a matter of great concern for China. And this is perhaps
Absolutely,
the
and
reason
the next 72
the
hours
Chinese
are only going to
concerned.
make Beijing even more jittery. We'll have to wait and watch as to what kind of reactions come to the fore. But for the moment, Siddhant, thank you so much.